Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we are leading the show with an important conversation on what might be a potential influence of the Americans on Nigeria's 2027 election, reminiscent of what President Goodluck Jonathan said happened in 2015. To join me in that important conversation, here in the studio, I have Mr. Ismail Omipidon, who is the deputy editor for Sun newspapers, covering politics, and also a public affairs analyst. Mr. Omipidon, my brother, good to see you again on Inside Sources, and Happy New Year.
The pleasure is mine. I wish you the same.
All right, thank you. And all the way from New York, joining us virtually, we have a professor of political science and women's studies at the Brooklyn College of the City University of New York, Professor Mujiba Olufunke Okome. Prof, Happy New Year and welcome to Inside Sources.
Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
All right. Also, virtually, we have from the University of Lagos, Dr. Abimbola Oyarinu, an international relations expert and a researcher with the Institute of African and Diaspora Affairs at the University of Lagos. Dr. Oyarinu, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So I want to start with Professor Okome. Now, in 2015, based on the reporting of President Goodluck Jonathan in his book, My Transition Hours, he detailed what he considered to be the overriding influence of President Barack Obama, then US President, and then Secretary of State John Kerry, the role they played in his defeat. He said in that book that President Obama actually released a video message directly to Nigerians, essentially telling them who to vote for in his own recollection. He also said that John Kerry was overly critical of some of the decisions of his administration, including the fact that the 2015 election presidential poll had to be postponed. He noted the fact that John Kerry's criticism was like an overreach, and that all of these things put together influenced his defeat in that election. Now, this year, we are hearing buzz both in Abuja and in Washington, D.C., that a repeat of this might happen. Now, you are a professor of political science. I want you to tell us, how do you interpret those developments?
Well, thank you very much. You know, U.S. intervention in the politics of global South countries is not a new factor. So if you look at the relationship between the U.S. and its neighbors in the Western Hemisphere, Latin American countries and Caribbean countries, you will see significant instances historically of intervention. As a matter of fact, you know, I think this is what superpowers do. And in the Cold War, you had both the US and the Soviets doing these kinds of intervention because each one wanted to ensure that they built up alliances that support their ideological perspectives and stance in the world. Now, I think what one can really, I haven't read President Jonathan's book, so I can't comment on it. But it was very clear from news reports that Cambridge Analytica was hired as consultant by actors within that electoral landscape. And Cambridge Analytica has been shown to be a bad faith actor in these elections, not just in the Nigerian situation, but even in the US. So I think they've dismantled that outfit, but there are still various Cambridge Analytica's, you know, clones in the political consultancy systems. So, you know, I think that the reason President Jonathan lost that election cannot just only exclusively be attributed to whatever other actors did. I would hasten to remind people of the level of malfeasance, corruption, and a lack of obvious capacity to even articulate what Nigeria's position in the world in terms of what politics is happening in the world is. There was also a lot of ineptitude, I have to say. And nowadays, kakistocracy has become a word, inept, ignorant, and clueless politicians running affairs. I think, you can say that about that administration. So, that election was his to lose. He lost it. And the performance of the administration, I have to say, was not impressive. So I don't know what people are looking at now that is making them say that this would be, if Jonathan comes back, there will be transformation. What transformation happened? A lot of money was stolen. A lot of it is documented. Desiani Allison was a minister there. The scandal is ongoing. The whole, level of kleptocracy in Nigeria, and a lot of really just bad decisions. Nigeria even hired a plane that belonged to one of these, our super rich men of God, to go buy weapons from South Africa with Israeli operatives. So look, that was not a well-managed administration. I think the problem with Nigeria is that we have unfortunately managed to put people who are not fit for purpose into office, and they mismanage things. And then, in the aftermath, people will be interpreting things any way that suits them. I think what Nigeria should be concerned about is that we have electoral problems, serious ones, in the system of managing elections. INEC has a leadership crisis. There's judicial integrity erosion. The political landscape seems to be collapsing, okay? Because you have the emergence of almost one party. You also have a public confidence crisis that people don't trust either INEC or the government to manage, to do their job the way they're supposed to. Vote buying, voter suppression, ballot tampering, and violence. Those were also aspects of that election that President Goodluck Jonathan was talking about, and they remain now.
Okay. All right.
Also religious and regional tensions.
Okay.
And, if you look at what Nigerian the political elite have been doing, they have mismanaged. They have brought this country to the precipice of collapse. And each and every time, they even have the boldness to come back and start rewriting history for the Nigerian people.
All right, Prof. Hopefully we're going to come back to you. Let me bring it to Mr. Omikpidon, who is himself a political journalist and actually somebody that had also, operated in the political space. He was the chief press secretary to Governor Yetola. My brother, do you think that where we are today in Nigeria is comparable to where we were in 2015 to even justify, the potential for a significant influence from outside, including from the Americans?
Well, I don't think so. And I want to align myself completely with the position of Professor Okome. In addition to all that she has said, I am one of those who also believe very strongly that even if there was any influence from outside, former President Jonathan made himself vulnerable And that was why he lost that election. And I will point out a few instances to buttress my argument. One, there was serious crisis within his party, the PDP, and he didn't manage that crisis well. He mismanaged those governors who eventually left the party. And you and I know that if those governors had not defected from the PDP, it probably would have been difficult for the opposition to win that election. Two, he didn't show any sign of seriousness to fight Boko Haram until when we were close to the election. I'm aware that some of its handlers had suggested to him that one of the safest ways of him returning was to ensure that the emergency rule in the Northeast was sustained, where they were renewing the emergency rule after every 6 months. The idea was that there should be no election in the Northeast, and that if there was no election in the Northeast, it would be very easy for him to return to power. And from the way he behaved, I am persuaded to believe that he bought into that theory, because until the crisis between himself and Tambua became very heightened, that the House had to reject the emergency rule, because, you know, the House and Senate must concur.
Right.
The Senate approved it, the House refused, and that was how it collapsed. If you recall, they had to ask for a shift in the election date to clear Boko Haram.
Yeah.
And I want to say with all modesty that the work the army did within those 6 weeks, if they had put in the same effort before that time, we probably would have seen the end of the menace called Boko Haram, because in fairness to them, that 6 weeks, they actually did good clearance. The question to ask is, why did they wait for that 6 weeks? It is also true that former President Obasanjo helped to demarcate former President Jonathan in the international community. And you and I know that the opinion of President Obasanjo is very, very strong within the international community. Yeah. Again, there was understanding that Jonathan was not going to run in 2015. He was the one who breached that understanding. I am also aware, because I was involved, that at the beginning, when Jonathan came in, some of us felt that it would be difficult for him to get a re-election. And because of the tension associated with second term, some of us suggested that perhaps we should go for a single term of 6 years. And I am aware that the leadership of the National Assembly had a discussion with Jonathan one-on-one, and they agreed that that exercise should go on. If you recall, at the beginning, when the National Assembly started the constitutional review exercise, there was proposal for a single term of 6 years. And the idea was for Jonathan to kickstart it. After his tenure would have ended in 2015, he would just have additional 2 years. Some of us believe that that will not create the kind of tension and acrimony like asking him to go for another 4 years. But along the line, some persons felt that David Mark and Ekwemadu were moving for other sinister motive other than trying to protect Jonathan. And that was how Jonathan called off that proposal. Unfortunately, he set up his own constitutional review constitutional conference, where the same issue came up. Unfortunately, by that time, positions had been taken. Nigerians were no longer willing to listen to a single year of 6 terms. So I concur with Professor Okume that beyond the international influence, Jonathan committed a lot of blunders that made him lost that election. Now, talking about where we are today, I do not see the same situation today compared to 2015. It is true, I'm aware that some lobbyists are working seriously to see how they could either effect a regime change or force the current administration to do certain things in their own way. But we watch to see how that plays out.
All right, thank you. Let's take it to Dr. Oyarinu. Dr. Oyarinu, I wanted to ask you that based on everything that we know and that has been said, do you think that the Tinubu administration should be worried about a potential influence, especially coming from President Donald Trump, who had made quite some unprecedented intervention in our affairs lately? Dr. Yarinu?
Thank you so much, sir. I would say if I was President Tinubu, definitely I'll be worried. Because when you look at the posture and position of President Donald Trump in the international space, you can assume that the influence of the United States in our election will not be far-fetched. Because we need to look at the international system currently as it is shaped. That will tell you what is to come in 2027. Currently, we are witnessing an epochal period in the international system where we're experiencing a transition from what used to be to what will eventually be when the international system settles. And things like this happen. When the international system is shaking up, you will have alliances and counter-alliances happen. And coincidentally, Nigeria happens to be a country of interest for great power politics. What do I mean? Nigeria is key when it comes to the AI race between the United States and China because of our rare earth minerals. And President Donald Trump is interested in how China plays its politics within our space, where they seem to have penetrated our system in such a way that they're benefiting a lot, and it is giving them an edge when it comes to the AI race with the United States. That's how Nigeria became a country of interest. Secondly, we need to also consider the issue, of course, which was placed in the media, the killing of Christians. Lobbyist groups are there working behind the scenes. And these lobbyist groups play a major role to help facilitate the interest of the United States towards a particular candidate, as it were. So if I am President Tinubu, what would I be doing? I want to commend the present government for their international relations posture. One of the strongest that we have seen, maybe since after the days of Murtala Mohammed. We've had a strong posture in the international system, which might also be a disadvantage to the present government because pars and bullies like, apologies to use the word, bullies like the current president of the United States do not enjoy countries that stand up to him. So that might also be a concern for the present government because they have actually negotiated our position relatively well in the international space. But where we are now and the interest and position of Nigeria when it comes to strategic influence, it would attract a whole lot of international actors, which will lead us, which will lead them to interfering in our political space. And coincidentally, we would want to determine who rules and who calls the shots from 2027.
All right, thank you so much. Very interesting conversation. I want to take it back to Professor Okome, if you are with me, that what will you say, you are based in the United States and you are also a professor of political science. There are Nigerians involved in trying to get Mr. Trump to play an influential role in our election. What message do you have for them, Professor Okome?
Well, let me first say that I don't think Nigeria is presenting itself in the strongest possible way. You know, when you go pay $90 million to lobbyists
9 million.
to promote an image of not attacking Christians, and there are starving people, the number of multidimensionally poor people in Nigeria is more than 140 million now. You are spending that money with lobbyists in Washington. You've paid half of the money and you are going to pay over time the rest of the money. It is the most puzzling, let me say, because I don't want to use very harsh language, puzzling and confused and also naive thing to do. Now, you've heard from President Trump. I really agree that he has a bullying, demeanor, and it's not just, he's like a bull in a china shop, not just in the US, where democracy is being threatened, and authoritarianism seems to be the comfort zone where this president resides, but also with the Western allies. His performance in Davos shows that he doesn't care about diplomacy. He wants to return to that pre-20th century world where might makes right and, push his weight around. So for Nigeria, he's told you categorically, he has said Nigeria is one of the shithole countries. He has no respect for Nigeria. He said he was going to come guns a-blazing. He bombed the country on Christmas Day. And the president of Nigeria, through his spokespeople, said that Nigeria agreed, Nigeria collaborated. Is that strong? Now, let me also quickly say that the country with these Christians, they say, who are saying that they're being killed in genocidal numbers and are not conscious that Muslims also have been killed in even larger numbers. This is a very, you want to bring somebody who has shown that he has no scruples about the use of overwhelming force into your country to come and solve problems that you should solve by yourselves. Nigerians are going to regret that. I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think that America has Nigeria's primary interests at heart. And then the defense and security of Nigerians should be the primary responsibility of the administration. This administration never said anything about the Christmas Day bombing, the president. Are the people who are in those zones, are they dispensable? If they are dispensable for America, it shouldn't be for Nigeria. So this government is not serious.
Thank you so much, Prof. I'm going to bring it to Mr. Omikino, and I want to make your own question a little bit nuanced, but you are free to enlarge it. So part of the buzzes that I'm sure you two have picked in Abuja that is also going in Washington, D.C. now is that, oh, well, look, with this Christian genocide issue, we shouldn't be having, Nigerians should not be talking about Muslim ticket, and that conversation behind the scene is going on. As a matter of fact, on the scene, we have seen pushback, by some APC chieftains, including a federal minister. I wanted to ask you, how do you think the fact that Nigeria has become, has risen in international interest, just like we've had, how do you think that kind of narrative might influence our politics in 2027?
Well, I don't see that narrative influencing our politics because, like I was discussing with a top government official about 3 days ago, as a political reporter, I want to see the current narrative about balancing ticket as a ploy by those who want to unseat Tinubu at all costs to get him out of the way. Because the truth is, if he decides to bring a Christian on that ticket, APC will suffer serious backlash in the north. Now, even if he decides to bring another Muslim on that ticket, the party will still suffer backlash. So for the APC, it's a catch-22 for them. Now, I agree that we do not really need a foreign influence to put things right in our country. Experience have shown clearly that where the U.S. decides to intervene, they have always left that place worse than they met it. Therefore, we must not, by whatever reason, ask them to come and help us do anything. At any rate, the Boko Haram we are talking about started when we had a balancing ticket in this country. Therefore, and there are empirical studies that have been carried out that show very clearly that the ordinary Nigerians do not really care about the fate of their leaders. All they want is good governance. And if we look at the current Muslim ticket, apart from the narrative of genocide against Christians, I am not sure the government has done anything, including even that allegation, to show that it is discriminatory against the Christian faith. So it therefore goes to show that those doing whatever they are doing it for other motives other than for the interests of this country. Therefore, my appeal to Nigerians is, if for whatever reason we are not satisfied with the current administration, we can come together and make a regime change possible without necessarily, involving any outsiders. Outsiders. Because if, for instance, the government, the APC, decides to bow to pressure to rejig its ticket, the Muslim community will say that they are coming after Muslims. And before you know it, another crisis will set in. So we must find a way of managing this situation.
All right. Thank you. We take the final question to Dr. Abimbola Oyarinu. So I'd like you to look at the situation from the point of view of Nigeria's place in global politics. You had made the point, Dr. Oyarinu, that Nigeria is quite attractive now, that even there are issues that maybe the Chinese are getting an advance. They've cornered quite a bit of the solid mirrors and stuff like that, to which the Americans may not be very, very happy. So Nigeria is a target. So what I wanted to ask you is that what do you consider to be the right approach, to resolving this matter? Especially on the part of the Nigerian government, because like Mr. Omikuno did say, the way and manner that Jonathan handled the situation, also helped his defeat. Even Professor Okome said that. What can the Nigerian politicians do, both the ruling government and the opposition, to showcase Nigeria's independence compared to taking political advantage? Dr. Yarinu?
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to state certain rules in international relations, and those rules are constant. One, there's no morality in the international system, which means that nobody cares whether, in the international space, nobody cares whether our president is Muslim or is Christian. What they care about is their interest. That is always constant. Secondly, power is the currency of the international system. So, in all you're getting, get power, because like that's what the international system is about. So, me to the current government, the opposition, what they can do, how they can position themselves. So, we must note in all of this is that first, we must put the flag first. We must respect the flag. We must respect our national interest first before anything. Before we go into any negotiation on both sides, we must put our country first, because the lives of 250 million people relies on the decision we make. And we can tell from what is happening across the international space, Venezuela, and all of that. We can tell that the best we can do is to pursue what works for Nigeria. However, politics is politics everywhere. Everyone is looking to gain power. And America can be a strong ally because now they are actually looking for alliances to beef up their strength in the international space. And Nigeria, coincidentally, happens to be a strategic ally at this time, not just for Africa now, we're talking globally. So my advice would be that engagement, quality engagement, because one time an American diplomat said that he likes to come to Africa because, and he doesn't like to negotiate with Asians. Why? Because Africans only come for meetings like a fanfare. We go through things, read, jolly drink, and we leave. That should not be the posture now, because whatever we do now will determine how we are going to be placed in the international system in the next 20 years. The international system really goes through a change. We are seeing a change in the international system today and how we position ourselves. And we should not only look to the United States alone. China is a key ally. So whichever ally works for us, both parties, the current government and the opposition, should spread their tentacles way across North America. For example, look at Europe today. European governments, they're actually moving towards China. That's unprecedented in the international system. So that tells us also not to keep our allies close. Open up, see who can give us the best that we need. Because it's so important. People look at Russell's economic growth theory. Stage 2 of that growth theory says that you need strategic ally, a mentor country, to make you move from stage 2 to stage 3. And we need that ally now more than ever. And whatever we do towards 2027 will determine how things shape up.
All right. Thank you so very much to my distinguished panel, Professor Mujuba Olu Okome, Mr. Ismail Omikwidon, and Dr. Abimbola Oyarinu. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.